Welcome to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, bringing baby boomers proven strategies and innovative products for getting fit, staying fit, so you can live a longer, healthier, and happier life. Here's your host, best-selling author and fitness advocate, Phil Ferris.
This is Phil Ferris, and welcome to our show. Never Too Late for Fitness Radio provides answers and straight talk about fitness, nutrition, and healthy lifestyles for people over 50. Our goal is to educate and advocate health and fitness strategies that help you to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. My guest today is Doris Lance, an avid hiker and wildflower photographer who happens to be over the age of 75. She's also the author of the book, Botanical Reflections, a book to explore feelings, reduce anxiety, and reconcile emotional conflicts, all through time spent journaling with wildflowers. Doris presents a unique message on health, fitness, and aging. I think you'll appreciate her message to slow down and take things in, not because of age, but because of the wisdom that comes from the experience. Well, Doris, thank you so much for being on the show today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
Now, your approach to health, fitness, and aging revolves around nature and hiking. How did this approach emerge, and how has it impacted your life?
I think it began as a child, actually. I grew up in Western North Carolina, and that's where the Great Smoky Mountains and the Blue Ridge Mountains converge. And it was my incubator, you could say, into finding out all the pleasures and sounds and the animals and the plants and the altitude of what nature had to offer. So I began exploring early. My parents were very supportive, and I began exploring very early, hiking and being outdoors, and it came second nature. Now it's like I only feel comfortable if I can get out in nature a couple of times a week.
Now, so you came by being a naturalist, if you will, kind of naturally because of your upbringings and where you became, where you grew up. But I think it was in 1999 that you became a hiker. Can you share how you made that decision to make that big trek and what you learned from that first major hike?
I'd love to. I could talk about it for hours. I had been hiking, living in Western North Carolina. I graduated from Western Carolina University and started traveling the U.S. and I was hiking, major mountain ranges. And then I moved to California. And of course, I had to be in the Eastern Sierras, well, the Western Sierras, but the Sierras, the Cascades in Washington. And some friends of mine said, we're going to go and hike Mount Fuji. And you're a hiker. And how about let's go? And I said, I would love to. I need to do some homework. What's the elevation gain? What's the temperature? What kind of things do I need as far as poles or special shoes or oxygen? And I got bitten by the hiking international bug.
Okay.
And I found myself just looking for places to explore.
Can you walk us through that first hike without Fuji? And you said you had to do some research about, so you didn't just say, okay, we're going to go to Mount Fuji. I'll be there next week. So tell us what you actually went through and then what that experience was like. Most people will never experience that. I have a few friends that have. And so, tell us a little bit about what it was like and how did that spur you on to do even more? Some people say, I've done it, no more. That's enough for me. And then you were bitten by the bug and kept on wanting to do it. So tell us a little bit how that experience kind of transformed your life.
Yeah, I've done it and I want to do more. I think I had to learn about altitude, how to breathe, deep breathing. They have something called Ujjayi breathing, where you breathe in the lower part of your lungs as you gain altitude, and just to pace yourself, because I find a lot of hikers, especially on the Mount Whitney Trail, they kind of get out of their car at Whitney Portals and they're rushing up the mountainside, and you have to regulate your energy, what you've had to eat, how well prepared you are, how fit you are. And so what I ended up doing is just pacing myself. I thought, well, I'm going to enjoy the journey and the journey instead of just the destination. And I did both. But I was with a couple other people, and they kind of coached me and let me know that was a wise thing to do. And one of them told me the night before to carb load, said load up on carbs. And he was loading up on carbs on the bus to go to the trailhead even. So I learned to pace myself, to really breathe well. And of course, I had the right equipment. And I think one of the greatest things that I enjoy about these treks is the people that I meet along the way. I mean, there was a young boy, maybe 8, at Fuji, and he passed me. And I'm thinking, okay, is this supposed to be a sign? And then about an hour and a half later, there was an 80-something-year-old man, and he passed me. And they were both Asian. And basically, I found out afterward that some of the locals were telling me it's a rite of passage. They do it every year. So that their body is accustomed and they learn. And I learned a lot about what my body could do, what I need to do to really prepare and to not be so hard on myself when I had to slow down and everyone was passing me.
How long did it take you to do the Mount Fuji?
Well, I stopped and started because along the way they have these little huts where you can get your hiking pole or your hiking stick stamped and engraved with the different levels of the hut. But it took me, I think it was 6.5, 7 hours, something like that.
And how did you cope with the elevation? You talk about that. How did that affect you, and how did you cope with it?
Actually, I was very surprised, Phil. I coped well. And the reason why I think I did is 6 months beforehand, I started going up to 9,000 feet in the Eastern Sierras. And I'd start at like 7,000 feet and go to 9,000 feet. And for about 6 months, once a week, I would go and I think I went to White Mountain at the ancient bristlecone pine forest, and that was 11,000 feet. So I was prepared because I had done that over and over. It's like any sport or anything that you do, any hobby, the more you do, the more you learn and you adjust. And that helped my breathing a lot.
I know that
many years ago, I did the Pikes Peak ascent. And living in Illinois, it's flat, so there is no chance to do elevation. So we used to do our walks, 3-4 hour walks in the middle of the day when it was hottest, but that didn't really train us for the elevation, because once we got above 11,000 feet, your body responds differently. And I didn't hydrate enough. And so so I got altitude sickness, and there was probably a half-hour period where my body could barely move until I got to the hydration station, and then drank about 3 bottles of Gatorade, and I felt fine. So the challenge of it, the beauty of it, the sense of the camaraderie you get with the people on the trail. What are some of the other benefits that you saw from making, you get from these, different international hikes that you've been on, because you've been on many, many others other than Fuji. So tell us about what are some of the other benefits that you've gotten from them?
Well, I think, the list could be long, but one interesting thing is I was photographing wildflowers for my book, Botanical Reflections, and I found that the soil at different elevations, 3,000 feet, 6,000, 9,000, the soil was different. And I was discovering, here I am trekking, and it's taking some energy, and I'm drinking my electrolytes, which is key. And I see these flowers that I haven't seen at lower elevations. And it's like, wow, that must be similar to people who do scuba diving. You just see a whole different environment. And I started photographing these wildflowers. And then when people would see them, that's actually how the book came about, because I was showing my photographs and they said, I've never seen a white columbine. Where did you see that? And they said, we'd seen pink, or light pink or whatever. And I said, it was at 10,000 feet. Okay. So the soil was producing a different color, size. And that just was something that I wanted to pursue. I wanted to collect as many photographs as I could and experience it and see it. And as long as I was healthy and could hike or climb, which, I've had setbacks as well. I mean, I've broken bones, and most of that was when I was trying to, scale a wall of rock. But there's something about, it's been proven that endorphins, as you exercise, are produced in the body. And those endorphins help with pain, to mitigate pain. And I find that you just take the time to recoup and then go back at it.
Okay. Now, I want to shift from the adventure side of the trekking to kind of the transformative side, from a health, wellness, spirituality basis. What is it about being outdoors that's so calming, and that, you talk about how it reduces stress, and that it calms the mind and the body. Talk a little bit about how that happens, because it's more than just the endorphins of working out.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your experience with how that transformative power of nature has on the body and the mind.
I think that is the thing, the new thing, that if people will just open themselves up and do some research. There was a book that I read, The Neuroscience of Meditating in Nature, and it's by John Lane. And when I read about that is where I thought the five senses that we're given can be stimulated, calmed, receive so much in our mental capacity. So I started to do that. And in Japan, they did a 2010 study called forest bathing. And I thought, well, I don't want to use that word because some people can't get to a forest if they live downtown Chicago. Right. So I started using nature bathing. And it's where you bathe the senses as you go to a park or sit in your backyard and you hear, you use your, are there different sounds? Are the birds singing? Are the trees rustling in in the wind? Do you smell different flowers blooming? And started using those five senses. And when you do that, your mind has a tendency to decompress. It is focusing on something else. And I know in neuroscience, you can build neural pathways in the brain for relaxation and meditation. And some people do it with music and nature. Some people do it with just music. I mean, there's more than one way to do it, but I found that nature was the one that when I got out in nature, when I came back and used this stimulus from the various parts of my senses, I felt refreshed.
Okay. And that goes to that, if you're going to go on a hike, whether it be Mount Fuji or just local trail, if your intent is just to get through it and, accomplish the physical aspect of it, you will get benefits. But by doing so, you're setting yourself off to the other benefits that nature can provide, which makes what's the difference between being on a treadmill and being outdoors can be tremendous in terms of stress release, anxiety, the ability to get focused in your thinking. And a lot of this has to do with we're bombarded with so much information that when we turn it off and just are receptive to the randomness of what you're going to get when you're in a trail, whether it be the change of terrain, the feel of the terrain, the temperature change from the shade to the light, the different distracting sounds, whether it be a bird or a butterfly or a grasshopper. All those things are forcing your mind to be aware of its surroundings, which is what it's designed to do. It's not designed to stay focused on a computer screen or a phone screen, for hours at a time. And that just release can be very refreshing. And it's like, wow, I really feel good. In addition to the physical aspect of I've done a mile, 2 miles, whatever it is. But you have to let yourself be aware that you're in nature and not on a treadmill, because otherwise you're just going to get the same benefits, which is not bad. It just, why not take the full benefits of it?
Well, and two, as you age, studies have been done that it can help prevent some mental fog with dementia or Alzheimer's. The National Institute of Health has done a study on the being out in nature, whether it be gardening helps, or taking a walk in your neighborhood, or going to a park, or going on vacation to a different location. It brings mental clarity. And a lot of people are finding that when they have to make a decision, if they get out in nature and just take a moment to decompress, then they can kind of decide, oh, I know what my next step needs to be to achieve this goal, or I can determine exactly why I was so confused, or I have the answer to this question that I've been trying to solve. So it's physical, yes. and it's mental, yes. And when you can combine those two, in my estimation, you are getting the benefit of aging backwards. I know there was a book who was the Aging Backwards was written by, I've seen her before on public broadcasting. And I love that she says that aging can be awesome and that death is inevitable, but disease is optional.
Right. And so let's talk a little bit about, because you're over 70 years old and still very active. And so what are some of the specific health and fitness benefits you've gotten from your experience with the outdoors, nature, and hiking?
Well, I found that motion is lotion for the body. And so I need to move. I can walk in my neighborhood. I can do a hike. I wished I was good at tennis, or I could pick up pickleball, which seems to be a big thing for people over 50 right now. But, choose something you love, because you're going to stick with it and make it a habit if you enjoy it and love it.
Okay.
And eating small meals. I eat like 5 to 7 small meals a day. I don't eat large meals because I found as I age, what I eat seems to be more important, because if I eat fried foods a lot and those kind of things, all of a sudden they and their friends appear as extra weight on my body. So I'm more conscious about clean food. I mean, I'm not a fanatic, but clean food, smaller meals, and then exercising. They say 10,000 steps a day. I'm not sure I meet those all the time, but I can tell you that the last trek I did over 10 miles was 20 miles in one day.
Okay, well, that's, if you average it out over a week, I'm sure that...
there you go. That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's not, it's good to have an average, to shoot for an average. But if you're doing major hikes in between or on weekends, it's a matter of, are you moving enough to keep your body, feeling good? Something else I learned, some of the benefits that hiking, especially trail hiking, whether it be international hikes or just the local nature parks and things like that, is walking on uneven terrain is very good for balance, because it tends to force us to use stabilizer muscles in our ankles and in our joints that we normally don't use if we're walking on a flat surface. This becomes essential because most people don't go to the gym and say, well, let's work on an uneven surface so that I have better balance. But, one of the major issues with people over 50 is falling.
Absolutely.
And one way you prevent falling is through strength. And it's not just the strength of the major muscles, it's also the strength of the stabilizers that only really get used when you're in uneven surfaces. So now that doesn't mean you go on the most challenging trail, but just any trail that has some uneven forces your body to use that. It also forces your eyes and your social perception to adapt to that environment. And when you're doing it outside, it's not like a workout. It's like, hey, I'm on a trail, and I'm getting the benefits of if I had a personal trainer yelling at me to, work on, starting up with these obstacle courses for me. And the other thing was the eyesight, in terms of taking in, looking in all directions, looking depth, short, near, far, and away, is great for eliminating and minimizing eye strain, because we spend so much time on the phone or on the computer focused. And some health experts say, every 5 minutes we should just look around and focus on something outside and around just for 10, 15 seconds to get the eyes reacclimated, because that's what they're designed to do. So those are just some of the things that I've learned recently about what hiking outdoors can do for people and their health.
Well, you mentioned something, Phil, that I think is key, because statistics say that every 11 minutes, someone goes to the emergency room from a fall. And I know this from my friends and my family members that will send me emails saying, I need to talk to you after because I just fell. I got up during the night. I fell over my dog that was sleeping by the bed. And I didn't break a bone, but I'm so sore and I got these big bruises. Or I had one lady say, I actually did break a bone. And so that balance comes from strength of the muscles and as well as focus and the core. Because I've been really stressing core exercises for people over 50 to get their core strong and to use these uneven surfaces, whether it's a street with a crack in it or on the golf course where there's maybe some rough that is uneven, because we're going to be challenged as we age for balance and strength. And I have a thing about flexibility. You're as young as your spine is flexible. So if your spine is not flexible, when you go for a fall, the tendency is to break a bone or really injure yourself because you can't move and you can't grab the ground or break your fall in some way. And balance is key. And it's all the brain and the muscles talking together.
Right.
And I think that's why nature is so good with that, Phil, is because the nature part brings the brain in and helps focus because it's using your senses. And then it's challenging the body at the same time.
No, not everybody's going to have the opportunity or even the desire to, run off next week to Mount Fuji-san and do a 7-mile trip, up elevation. But there are a lot of people that say, well, I'd like to give this hiking and nature thing a try. What would be your recommendations for how to get started to get some of the benefits? And again, if you do something and you enjoy it, you'll do it more often. So what's the best way to get people started to see if this is something they like in a way that doesn't, if you bite it off, if you go on a 20-mile hike your first time out, your body's going to hate you so much that you're probably not going to want to do it again. So there's somewhere between challenging and getting started that would give people a sense of how do I use nature and hiking as a vehicle for my health and well-being. So what would your recommendation be for someone to get started?
I think one of the best things to do is to have a desire to actually eliminate some of the medications you're on, or to become more flexible, or to have clarity if you're really having mind and remembrance problems. I say you have to say to yourself, I'm in charge of my body. No one else is. Take responsibility of where you are. And I have used people who have knee replacements. It doesn't matter what level of health you're in. Just decide that you want to improve. Take responsibility and then start in your local neighborhood. Go to a local park. If you don't have a local park, go in your neighborhood and walk for 15 minutes and see how that works. And if you come back, I gave one lady that goal, and she came back and she sent me an email and she says, I am pooped. I can't go any further. And I said, get water, sit down, take a breath, and tell me in 2 hours. And I said, if you're hungry, small meals, protein, see how you feel. She called me in 2 hours and she said, okay, I feel great. So her body had time to process all of that. She got oxygen, fresh oxygen in her blood, and her blood got circulated.
Right.
So, and that, with that experience, she wanted to continue. And of course, you can continue. And if you don't have time one day, do 5 minutes. I mean, you know, I think what it is consistency, from what I've read, has been the key to people who their health has improved and they've lowered their cholesterol medicine or strengthened their heart so that they don't have coronary disease. So I think starting out small and then building upon that. And then the other thing I would say is see if you can find a friend, a neighbor, or a family member to do it with you. Because it's more consistent if you say, oh, I told so-and-so I would meet them at the stop sign, so I better get out there.
That level of accountability becomes very, very powerful whenever I've wanted to say, okay, here's a period where I want to be extra focused and I want to put in extra effort. Then I have to add some external pressure on myself.
Yes.
And it's, accountability to a group. Right now I'm working on with a group, and I'm on the green team, so I got to get in there and I got to get my extra credit and markup so I don't let the team down. And that forces me into the habit of doing what I know I should do.
Yes.
And, for a lot of people, COVID got us out of good habits and into bad habits. And, now it's a matter of how do you replace those bad habits with good habits slowly and consistently. And then as you enjoy things, then you'll do it more. Like as you start with 15 minutes. My wife and I, during the summer and the spring and in the fall, we try and find different parks that we haven't been to and different challenges. Some have real steep hills and some have lots of trees, and we're looking for something we haven't been to. Let's just try this trail and see what happens. And, and sometimes they say, well, we want to come back to that. And sometimes that was either too easy, too hard, but you're always looking for something rather than I'm just going to walk 3 miles. I want to walk and see something, experience something different.
Right.
And honest, in the winter, we like to go into neighborhoods because the windows are open and my wife can look in the houses and she can check them out. And it keeps it engages the mind as well as it's a distraction of what you're doing and gives you something to think and talk about. So it's the entertaining factor of exercise as opposed to plug in and tune out from the world. The idea is tune into the world so that you can experience it. You may be surprised at the benefits that it gives you. Before we leave, is there any last bit of advice you would give people? Because the last 20-some years you've been doing a lot of trekking, and if there's that one golden nugget that you could give someone that says, Doris, I want to make sure that I live a longer, happier, healthier life. What can I get? What would be your best advice for making that happen?
I think that my best advice would be use the opening from COVID to develop new habits to get healthy. I have read over and over again that as we age, it takes more effort to be healthy. And if you can envision a car or anything that you have, an antique or whatever, when it's first new, it's kind of like when we're first on this earth, you know. We may be spiffier and we may be more flexible and we may be able to remember things. But as we age, it takes maintenance. And let's use this time to start anew. Start a new habit of taking care of ourselves by taking a walk or swimming, starting an aerobics class in the water, or maybe playing pickleball or golf or whatever your fitness level will allow you to do. Your body will reward you. You will be the benefit of that activity.
Great. Well, Doris, if people want to contact you, learn more about you, or purchase your book, Botanical Reflections, where should they go?
Botanical Reflections.
Botanical Reflections. Okay.
Yes. I have, it says capture your days in words and pictures. And it's a nature journal. And I have a website, www.wildflowerinspirations.com. And there's an email on that as well as colorwildflowers@yahoo.com.
Those are the places you can find out about the book and learn more about Doris. And Doris, I want to thank you so much for sharing your insights, but mostly the passion that you've developed that has made an impact on you. And hopefully it is the types of things that anybody can embrace to make their lives better. So thank you so much for being on the show.
It was a pleasure.
All right, you have a great day.
You as well.
All right, and we are...
You've been listening to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, hosted by Phil Ferris. To learn more about the guests or resources on our show today, or to listen to past episodes, go to nevertoolateforfitness.com.